Why the New York Jets need to be all in on quarterback Justin Fields for 2025. Using a tweet from Michael Nania of Jet X Factor to spark this conversation. Michael, Robbie, Joe Blewett all do a great job covering the team over at Jet X. I'm sure you're familiar with their work. So here is Michael talking about Tyrod Taylor tearing it up at training camp and what that could mean for the quarterback position for the New York Jets as the 2025 season unfolds. Michael says, quote, "I'm not there, but it feels like Tyrod Taylor is tearing it up almost every day. Best QB on the roster. Definitely not the highest ceiling QB on the roster, which is why I'm fine with him not starting week one. But it will be interesting to see how long the rope is once we get to the regular season." So here's my take on the Jets quarterback situation. To me, it's not really a situation. It's Justin Fields' job until it isn't. Now, Tyrod Taylor can play. Tyrod Taylor, and obviously he was a starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills for a few seasons, and he was beloved here in Western New York. Tyrod is a pro. He's everything you want in that bridge backup quarterback. You could put his career stats up there. He'd be like the third best quarterback in Jets history, right? Tyrod can play. And I even thought his most recent stint obviously he got some work in garbage time last year and he played well because he was playing against backups. You'd expect him to do that as a high quality backup himself. But even his stint with the Giants, like what he was able to do in that god awful situation, this is before Malik Neighbors, Andrew Thomas hurt, one of the worst teams in football. And he played admirably. He was able to go out there and complete 65% of the passes, over 7 yards per attempt, still plus mobility, still a pretty decent deep ball. So Tyrod can play. There aren't 32 quarterbacks in the NFL better than Tyrod Taylor, but the past 7 years have shown Tyrod Taylor, he goes maybe 2 to 4 games before he suffers a significant injury. He's playing a sport dominated by guys who are 70 pounds heavier and like 10 years younger than him. So yeah, if you're going to ask me, the Jets are playing the Steelers week one, Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields, who would I rather start that game if I'm going to put money on it? I'd have to think about it. It's honestly pretty close. And Tyrod Taylor is definitely at this point the best passing quarterback on the roster with the information that we have. Sure, that's all good and well. Tyrod Taylor can play. Justin Fields to this point in his career has not shown the ability to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I get where he's coming from that perspective. But to me, this season, once you sign Justin Fields, you sign him, at least in my opinion, because I can only guess. I'm not Aaron Glenn or whatever, but you sign him because number one, you need a quarterback, and he can start and you can win some games with him. His last 17 games or so have been some serviceable production, obviously, including his rushing stats in there. He's demonstrated the ability to get better each and every year in some key areas. So you're going to build your offense around his rushing. Hopefully the passing can improve and you can win some games that way. But furthermore, and I don't think that would be enough to justify giving him $30 million guaranteed. I think a big part of it is Justin Fields was one of the only names available where you think there was a somewhat decent of a chance of him becoming a medium to long-term solution. And that's kind of what his contract indicates, because some people will say, oh, well, he's just some other team's version of Zach Wilson, a complete bust, waste of time. Okay, maybe that will age to be the case, but Zach Wilson got what, $6 to $8 million. Zach Wilson's contract is indicative of a backup, actually decent backup money, but a backup. And some people will say Justin Fields he's a starting quarterback. He just needs the proper things around him, and boom, starting quarterback guaranteed, no doubt about it. Anyone saying otherwise is a hater. Well, start good players like that, like even Tua Tagovailoa or Trevor Lawrence, we can call them mid all we want. Jordan Love. The NFL market dictates those guys get $50 million a year with, like minimum 2 years fully guaranteed, $100 million guaranteed if you are a mediocre starting quarterback in the NFL. So what did Justin Fields' market say? Not my opinion, not somebody who loved him at Ohio State, not a Bears fan who now hates him, a former Bears fan who loved him, Jets fans who are kind of all that out of the way. What did the NFL market say about Justin Fields? Because there was some competition. The Pittsburgh Steelers reportedly, the hang up was they didn't want to guarantee him money into the second year. They were fine giving him $20 million on a 1-year deal, reportedly. That's the rumor. Okay. So why is Justin Fields a $20 million quarterback that teams want to give a 1 or 2-year deal to? Why? Why is he not a $6 million backup? Why is he not a $50 million a year starter? Because I'm going to guess, for the reason I just outlined, he's serviceable. You can win some games with him. And the NFL market is saying that he is worth more than that because there's a chance he could become the guy. But we don't have the information to say, boom, he gets an offensive line and a decent coordinator, and he's going to be a starter squared away, no problem. That's why he's not getting $50 million. That's why his contract is in the middle. That's what the NFL market dictated on Justin Fields. And so we know that. That's what the market dictated. Now, that's just my interpretation, my opinion as of why. But I think it makes sense, right? He gives you a chance to be the medium long-term solution. He's the only quarterback on the roster that I think gives you that chance. Can we skip the Brady Cook thing? I know we had to do it with Jordan Travis for a couple of years and he got hurt and it's a bummer, but I'd like us to just skip it. Okay. Maybe he can stick around as a third string or maybe develop into a Cooper Rush level backup, but it's time to just be serious. Okay. On solutions to this quarterback position. Let's be serious. Brady Cook is not a serious answer. He's just not. But Justin Fields might be. And if you're the Jets, you need to know that the flaws that he has, to the extent that they can be improved upon, are they all going to be gone week 1? Is Justin Fields going to be ripping it over the middle of the field with anticipation throws and like he's Drew Brees week 1? No, probably not. Right? If he can eventually turn out to be that guy, there's probably going to be some growing pains along the way. So to me, if you're not going to be all in on Justin Fields and give him a very long rope, then there was no point in guaranteeing him $30 million. So that's why I'm assuming they're going to be all in on him. Now, of course, we could think of hypothetical situations. Well, what if he, throws 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in the first 4 games? Yeah, okay, of course. What if he stubs his toe and they're 3-3 and he's playing okay, but Tyrod Taylor comes in and then they go 3-0 and Tyrod has 10 touchdowns, no picks? Are they going to ride the hot hand? Okay, we can cross all those hypothetical bridges when we come to it, but suffice it to say, for better or worse, until it's obvious he can't do it, I think the Jets need to ride with Justin Fields. They need to communicate to the team like this is our guy, and that's what Aaron Glenn has already done. Right? That's why they haven't had a quarterback competition. That's why they've come out and said he's the guy. They're hyping him up. It's like, this is going to be our dude. And if week 3, he has 114 yards and no touchdowns and 1 pick and 5.8 yards per attempt, not like we were immune from those games last year, by the way. No, Tyrod Taylor is not going to come in. Right? And the thing about this is whenever a team pivots away from the younger struggling quarterback to the veteran to try and get a spark, to try to do it for the locker room, to try to win games, has that ever worked? Zach Wilson to Mike White. Yeah, they both ended up being backups, so it didn't really matter, but still, it didn't get the Jets anything. The Colts going from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco. Now, that was a little different because reportedly Richardson checked himself out of a game, whatever. But if you're a Colts fan, I don't know, still wouldn't you have rather had the other 7 games of information on Richardson than whatever you did with Joe Flacco, because it was nothing? It rarely ever works out. We saw this experiment last year with Justin Fields. They go to Russell Wilson. First couple games, they get a shot in the arm. Then you look at the end of their season, their points per game were identical with Fields and Wilson, and their winning percentage was actually worse with Russell Wilson. So, is Tyrod Taylor a lot better than Russell Wilson? I don't know. At this point in their careers, probably not. So that's why, to me, it's Fields until it's painstakingly not. And if it's painstakingly not, like, oh my gosh, now he's has a 1 to 2 interception ratio and is completing 58% of his passes. Well, then hold on. I got questions for you, coaches, because he wasn't doing that his last 17 games. So I don't see a world in which there's a quick hook for Fields. Like, Tyrod, to me, is there in case what happened in camp happens in a game, which is Fields stubs his toe and he has to miss some time. I'm really hoping we get a 17-game sample size of Justin Fields. Now, after that, you don't got to be married to him. We could talk about drafting a quarterback. We could, like, to me, the Jets need to do everything in their power to try and solve this situation long term. That needs to be the goal here, because until they do that, man, we can talk about all these other players. It's not going to matter until they figure out quarterback long term. It's not going to matter. At least a top 15. They don't have to find a Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow. That'd be nice, but you got to have top 15 quarterback play. They got to find that, because until they do, we're farting in the wind, man. We're farting in the wind until they don't. And some farts smell worse than others, but a fart is a fart. And if you don't have a quarterback, you are farting into the wind. So let's figure out how to get a quarterback. And right now, with the way that the offseason played out, with the Jets not having a high enough pick to get Cam Ward, with the entire NFL agreeing that no other quarterback was worth really taking in that high in the draft for the Jets were picking. And with the free agency class being, Justin Fields being the most coveted free agent, him and Aaron Rodgers, so they're that swap there. Okay. Justin Fields is their hedged bet for this year. I think it was a worthwhile bet to make. Let's give it 17 games. Would be my opinion. What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose by playing Justin Fields and giving him a really, really, really long leash? All in. For better or worse. R&R says trust in AG. Well, here's to hoping, man. What's up, ladies and gents? Can't wait for the season. So many changes. It's going to be great, finally. Yeah, I'm excited for football, man. I'm excited to see this new Jets team out there on the field. What's up, Dane? Odds that QB3 starts a game for the Jets in 2025. Oh, man, I hope not. Starts, because then that means I hope not. Because even if, let's say, Fields gets injured, has to miss a game, then Tyrod has to start, and then maybe he gets nicked, and then the guy has to come in and clean it up, and then hopefully one of the two is back by the next week. So that would mean that both Fields and Tyrod Taylor are both unavailable for the same game at the time that the game starts, which I would say is unlikely. Now it's the Jets, so I mean they always, besides last year, I mean, I'm sure we could look it up, but when was the last time a Jet quarterback started all the games? Probably Fitzpatrick, and then up in 2015, and then up until Rodgers, I would imagine. I can't think of a season where it was, but hopefully just at least two. Would I bet Tyrod Taylor sees time? Yeah, probably, because Fields is a running quarterback, and especially now with the concussion protocol, you get knocked in the head, you got to go over, and so yeah, he'll be on the field probably at some point in the regular season. I'm hoping the third string quarterback, no, though. What's up, Chris CB? Rich? Huevos? Kuntz is looking good? Okay, that's news to me, but I'll take it. Kendon says, how many games are we winning this season? Just putting together my slides. I'm going to make a massive Jets video recapping like who's on the coaching staff, the whole offseason, what schemes they're going to be running, grades for each position group, record prediction. That's going to be a fun one. It's going to be close to an hour-long video. But my record prediction ended up being 7-10. Vegas has them at 5.5 last time I checked. So, and typically that's how it goes. My prediction for the Jets is about a game and a half better than it ends up being, except for last year when I predicted them to win 10 games and they won half that. But looking back at my record predictions the 4 years I've been doing this, the Jets are typically about 2 games worse than I predict. So anyone who calls me negative, I don't know, man. The math ain't mathing, because the Jets have never won more games than I expected them to. So hopefully this will be the year. Because if you're above 7 wins, then you're fighting for a wild card spot. Then you're in contention. Am I the only one scared about picking between 5 and 6 QBs next year? Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. It's still early. We'll see how it shakes out, who actually returns, who wants to transfer for NIL money, who's the player who was supposed to be a first round talent but ends up, oh, and now he's going to go in round 3. I mean, that was Quinn Ewers, right? Scott says, I think with a good balanced offense and a solid run game, there's no reason Fields can't at least be average. Yeah, average would be awesome. Average is what, the 15th, 16th best quarterback in the NFL? That would be awesome. That would be a steal for his contract. It seems like the Jets have been looking for the man forever. For once, let it be Justin Fields. That would be incredible. Because then you could take that draft pick next year and just get a different position player. So that'd be sweet. Same with it. Okay. Drew Alar. Yeah, definitely talented, but raw. So someone's going to see some Josh Allen in him. Where on the Jeff George to Josh Allen spectrum is Drew Alar? Will be the question. Not Michael Nani. I'm done. Yeah, I don't want to far into the. I don't want. Yeah, we need to get a quarterback, man. It's just your margin for error everywhere else. Because honestly, if we had, let's just pick like a solid starting quarterback. Like if this Jets team had, I don't know, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, that level of QB, everything like you're just kind of saying, oh, okay, him with Garrett and Brees. Look at the offensive line. Look at the lens through which you view the team all of a sudden becomes so different. But when you have uncertainty at the quarterback position, like the Jets fought and clawed. And what was it, 2023? The Jets had a top 5 defense and the punter kicker duo that was like the best in the league. I mean, it was comical, like coffin corner punts every time by Morstead, Greg Z, best kicking season in franchise history, at least in the conversation for it. To go 7-10 because of, well, and to be fair to Zach Wilson, the offensive line injuries, the coaching offensively was horrible, but you know, the quarterback spot, man, if you got to have that patched up, you know. What's up, Michael? Fields' running ability is going to open up the run game even more. Yeah, it's definitely going to add more. The Jets' offense last year, I think one of the ways it'll be better this year is they really didn't have, and I think it's I think it's Joe Caparoso on Badlands who kept saying they're playing in like an 8-yard box or whatever, and it was so true because they had no horizontal or vertical spacing. They had a very short average depth of target. They didn't really push the ball downfield a lot. And they didn't use pre-snap motion, and they cut down on their wide zone. They didn't do a ton of jet sweeps. There was they did almost nothing to really stress the defense. They got the ball out quick. Rodgers still did very well with that. That is going to be one of the biggest drop-offs going from Rodgers to Fields is the time to throw. Rodgers had the 5th quickest time to throw, and Fields was dead last. So that's why like the pass protection could be good, but can Fields take advantage of it? Like the pass protection might still be good, and they might take a lot of sacks unless Fields start getting rid of the ball quicker. Part of that is play design. Part of that is receivers getting open, all that stuff. But that was pretty much it. Like other than that, they didn't push the ball in the field. They didn't stress you horizontally. It was just an offense of hot routes and slants mostly. So you got to open it up a little bit because that just makes it so easy on the defense. And that's why they can start doing things like having defensive linemen jump your hot routes because they know exactly where it's going to be. You you gotta mix it up so that can't be the case. Justin Fields is the best QB we had since Geno. I mean, it's there haven't been a lot of good ones, man. I mean, like the best quarterback seasons we've had as of late. Last year, Aaron Rodgers, definitely one of the best, if not the best, in the last 10 years. I mean, it is what it is. It's a low bar. Fitzpatrick in 2015 and Josh McCown in 2017. And then maybe Sam's second year where he showed some promise. Um, Other than that, it's been absolutely horrible. So even if you look at Justin Fields' last 17 games and if he does that exact thing the next 17 games, he'll be right up in there as one of the best ones. It's a low bar. 9-8 prediction. I would take that. 9-8 would be awesome. Yeah, I like the Mets. Mets, Knicks, Jets, Islanders, Syracuse. Why is it seem like everybody has Gibson on this team? He muffs punts, hasn't done nothing since the Buffalo game 2 years ago, and he always catches the ball at the. Well, I don't think from a fan or even reporter's perspective, I don't think anybody is claiming he's good. It's just that the Jets' competition at punt returner so far has mainly been Gibson, Jamal Pritchett, and Andre Cisco. Now, typically teams don't want to have a player who's going to play 90% of your defensive snaps be the punt returner. Typically you want to kind of give that to maybe a backup player. So then it leaves Gibson and Pritchard. And okay, one's a UDFA. So we don't know. I don't know. It seems like Gibson could make it as the punt returner for better or worse. Brees and Braylon in the backfield. Yeah, I think they tried that a couple times last year, and it seemed to do kind of well because you can do a lot of misdirection stuff. I think that's the added benefit of having a mobile quarterback is the threat of Fields being able to run. I think opens up things for your offense in ways that can't necessarily be accounted for in the box score. So yeah, investing heavily in Fields allows the New York Jets to avoid the pressure and potential mistakes of reaching for a QB in the 2026 draft. Well, I think that would also be a win. Like, what is the barometer for a successful season for Fields? Like, okay, do they have to win so many games? Does he have to throw so many stats? Not really. I mean, well, of course, if they win 3 games, then that means then he was probably bad and the coaching was bad and people probably got hurt. So that's obviously you have to win. There has to be a certain number of games you win. He can't throw for 8 touchdown passes, right? So of course there's going to be a certain number of production and winning that goes along with it. But really, if I could summarize it briefly, I would say a successful season for Fields would be if the Jets are going into the 2026 draft class and they feel like we don't absolutely have to take a quarterback. If one falls to us that we like, cool. But we're all comfortable rolling out Fields for another year. If he can play well enough that they feel comfortable with that, that will be a successful season. That doesn't mean he crushes it so much that they want to give him an extension, but at least if he can play well enough that the people making the decisions feel like they don't have to be operating out of desperation, then that will be a win. Because that's how you get the what was that draft class? Oh man, there's There's one that just exemplifies it to a T. I think it's 2011. I think it's 2011 where there were so many great players, but teams that didn't have QBs just took a bunch of bad QBs because the idea is like, well, you got to take one, and I get it, because again, if you don't solve it, nothing else matters. But you know, you could end up making a pretty big mistake. Okay, yeah, I think it was yes. So 2011. Okay, Cam Newton goes 1 overall. Is this the draft class I'm thinking of? I don't think this is, but still, you have Christian Ponder and Jake Locker go in the first round, and this is a draft class, and Blaine Gabbert. Yeah, so Blaine Gabbert, Christian Ponder, and Jake Locker. They go in a draft class that had JJ Watt and Robert Quinn and Pouncey and Cam Jordan and Cam Hayward and Tyron Smith and Julio Jones. So yeah, you'd probably rather have one of those guys than Jake Locker, Christian Ponder, or Blaine Gabbert. So you don't want to be in a position where you're operating out of desperation. Am I going to do game by game record predictions? Probably not game by game, just because it's so I don't know, predicting the week 17 matchup at this point. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, I think they'll be around a 7-win team. Maybe I'll do that, but I think they'll be around a 7-win team. That's just really looking at the strength of the schedule overall and the roster overall, because each individual game there's just so much variance. Who's your daddy says 10 plus wins this year. Hot Firefish was at training camp, says Fashanu is a massive human. Yeah, he's a big dude. Defense looked good. Run game, offensive line looked good. Pass game looked bad. They were doing red zone drills and offense was struggling. Folk's good. Yeah, I think Nick Folk, I mean, I know it's felt like a footnote on the offseason, but Nick Folk could be, in terms of the wins and losses, be the most needle moving addition that they had. I mean, seriously, because who else did they sign? Brandon Stevens? Yeah. Brandon Stevens to AZ Thomas in terms of wins and losses for the season versus Nick Folk, if he is who he was last year, which is the highest kicking percentage in the NFL, versus some random UFL, UDFA kickers. Yeah, that could be a 2-game swing. And that could be not a lot of players who are non-quarterbacks are worth 2 games. So of all the additions they made, free agent signings, yeah, I mean, who else did they bring in? Andre Sisco? I don't think he's worth 2 games. I like the signing. I don't think he's worth 2 games, Josh Reynolds, I don't think he's worth 2 games, but the Nick Folk might be worth 2 games. Caveat, I'm a Fields fan, but I've watched every pro game. Well, hey, that makes you more informed than me. I have not watched every game of Fields. I watched every game in Pittsburgh and then highlights in Chicago. Literally had the best throw of the season last year, called back on a hold. He is 10 to 20 pure throwing. What do you mean by that? 10 to 20 pure throwing? He had a 2-game stretch where he threw 8 touchdowns and had 750 yards in the air in a short week. Yeah, he's had some explosive games. I remember against the Broncos, the game they ended up losing. I remember there was a game in the rain against the Patriots where he looked like Steve Young, but it's just the consistency. Yeah, Folk made every kick at practice today. 6 of 6. Best case scenario is Fields plays like a top 10, 15 QB this season, and we can draft around him with future picks. Yeah, that's definitely the best case scenario because Obviously. I mean, because obviously, of course, if you could solve the QB and then not only the first round pick you might spend on a quarterback, but a package you might have to put together to trade up for one. If you could defer all that and then use that to build around Fields, even if he is, I mean, geez, 15th would be amazing. 15th best quarterback in the NFL would be what is he, 26 years old? Yeah, that would be obviously awesome. Oh, he is 10th to 20th in the league. Um, I think that's a little bit rich, and again, that's why I just go back to, like, his contract because it kinda just makes it and again, NFL teams are wrong all the time. Javon Kinlaw got 15 million a year, so NFL teams make mistakes all the time, but if you look at his market, like, quarterbacks who teams believe are what you're saying is right around an average starter get, like, minimum $45 million a year, so clearly the NFL doesn't quite agree with that, but they also don't agree with people who say he's a complete bust and waste of time. The NFL market says Fields is somewhere in the middle. Fields is 0-22 when his defense gives up 21 points. Are you serious? Give me something else. Give me a different number to work with. Um, I don't know. It's not ideal. I guess it's not ideal. The NFL is politics. Shadur going. I mean, dude. Okay, but sure. I'll listen to you on that. I will say yes. Shadur Sanders fell lower than just his overall prospect as a player would indicate. I think he probably could have been a day two pick. That's fine, but there's what's the politics on Fields? Like, dude, if people thought he could come in and be an average quarterback, they would pay him like that. Like, there's no like, what is the politics of, like, you know what? We'd rather lose games and lose money with this guy. Like, I just don't. You're gonna have to sell me on it. What's the political angle of why people of the supply and demand for Justin Fields being different than it is for Jordan Love or Trevor Lawrence? Like, come on, man. Like, we call it what it is. The NFL just doesn't see him as a entrenched starting quarterback as of yet. Like guys like Tua. All right. That to me is a little bit of a cope, respectfully. But I was hey man, when the Jets were picking in the whatever the fifth round, I was like, yeah, take Shadur over the linebacker that we've never heard of that you're going to take. Fine. Because again, it's quarterback. So the return on investment is so high. And that was when we were still doing the Jordan Travis thing. Unfortunately, he's retired now. But that's why I'm skipping it on Brady Cook. I don't want to hear about Brady Cook. I'm sorry. I, I can't do it. We got to be serious. I think Fields improved a lot this year, but based off what he has shown so far, he's probably a bottom 7 starter. Which is pretty much what his that's still a starter. That's pretty much what his if you look at his what he got, the money he got, the salary he got, of all the quarterbacks who are not competing and are guaranteed a day one starting job, he is the lowest salary of any of them who aren't rookies. So he's the lowest paid starter who's been paid to be a starter. So it's not really as though he's overpaid. I know when that money came out, people are like, "Oh my gosh, 20 million a year for Fields." It's like, yeah, dude. Average QBs get 50 million. He's getting less than half that, you know? It's going to be more. Dak Prescott, who I think is better than average. I actually think Dak is a little bit overhated just because he's a cowboy. Dak is nice. Dak can play. Um, I would love if the Jets had a quarterback like Dak Prescott level would be amazing. But even he, like the next one of that ilk of that Dak to Goff-ish range, that 8 to 12-ish range, is probably going to get 60 million a year. And you're going to be looking at Justin Fields next year on the Jets making 20 million. It's like that's nothing for quarterback play. I mean, even what did Zach Wilson get to be the backup? Um, 10 million. Oh, up to 10 million for 6 to 10 million. And to this point, Zach Wilson is like arguably the worst quarterback in modern NFL history who started as many games as he has. 6 million guaranteed. He will do better on the Dolphins though than on the Jets. That's for sure. Mike McDaniel is a solid offensive coach, but still, I mean, come on. I'm excited to watch him because he carried Chicago in pit running for his life. Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's like offensive supporting cast is not as great as people are making it out to be. Like defensively, well, really, truly, that Pittsburgh's defense carried their offense the whole season, whether it was Russ or Fields. As in the last like 6 games, it was Russell Wilson, and they couldn't even score 17 points. So they had a top 3 defense, and that's why they made the playoffs. So now, if Aaron Rodgers goes out there and is bottom 5 in completion percentage and yards per attempt, and they score 25th in points again, but they win 9 games and make the playoffs because they have a top 3 defense and the best kicking percentage in the league, people will be like, see, the Jets good at it. So yeah, of course that's coming. But hopefully the Jets just win enough games on their own so we don't have to do all that. Would be nice. Well, yeah, of course. It's the same thing of the stat of like, oh, I remember it was like Aaron Rodgers is 82-10 when his defenses allow less than a certain point. Yeah, but I mean, 0-22 is a little like that. That is a little wild. 0-22 is kind of wild. You'd think it would be like whatever, 6-17, like still bad, but 0-22 is kind of a jarring stat. I mean, you have to look through the game. You have to look through the game logs, like how many games was it? 38 points or 34 points versus 23 points, right? Because it's different. When his teams score at least 21 points. Isn't that what you just said? 22 points a game. Yeah, let's get there. Can we get to 22 points a game? Can we be average on offense? The Bears have they've actually, I think they're in a spot finally this year where actually Caleb Williams might have a shot to do pretty well because they paid them. It cost a lot of money, but they finally put together an offensive line. You got Romadunze and DJ Moore, and you got Ben Johnson. So I think Caleb will definitely have a better shot there than Fields ever did for sure. Yeah, obviously I can't wait. I mean, dude, if it happens, if he's good, I mean, gosh, it'll be incredible because then you have a quarterback. No explanation needed of why that would be amazing. And I'm sick of arguing about our quarterbacks, why they're bad, whose fault it is. Should we get rid of them? We shouldn't have got rid of them. Always doing good over here 10 years later. Like, it just would be nice. And again, doesn't mean it's got to be Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow, Allen. That would be nice. But even like a quarterback like, again, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield level. People call Herbert overrated. I would love to have an overrated Justin Herbert on my team. It'd be amazing. Where it's like, oh, could he have done more to win that playoff game? That what? That what game was it? Oh, a game that happened after the regular season? Yeah, I'll deal with that. I'll deal with whatever happens in that game. So I love to have that. Where now we're arguing about, okay, like who like the coaching and what players are like that is just done. Some Buck fans might like Baker Mayfield more than others. He's their QB1. They're not looking to move heaven and earth to upgrade and switch at quarterback, right? That would be awesome. It just makes everything so much easier. And then in your coaching staff, you get to actually evaluate your coaching staff. Because for a while, even though how bad the Jets' last coaching staff was, it's like, okay, I guess, but you're looking at who just look at game by game, who was lining up at offensive line and who was playing at quarterback. And now we know the players have all confirmed what we finally was revealed to us. No more excuses last year of how bad their coaching was. But it's like, okay, who's at quarterback? Oh, Zach Wilson. Oh, he's out. Who's in now? Mike White. Okay, 80-year-old Joe Flacco. Okay, Josh Johnson, who actually played pretty well for the Jets. Oh, now it's Chris Trevler. Now it's Trevor Simeon. Now it's Tim Boyle. Am I missing one? Oh, who's blocking for them? Oh, it's up until last year, which actually they got some relatively decent health and some decent offensive line play. But before that, it was like Xavier Newman. There was a game in 2023 where the Jets um, offensive line was Carter Warren, Laken Tomlinson, Xavier Newman, Max Mitchell, and Billy Turner. And the quarterback was Zach Wilson. Well, you're not going to win. You are not going to win that game. So people are like, we had this stacked roster and the coaches couldn't do anything with it. It's like, again, maybe last year, okay, sure. Although Tyron Smith wasn't good, Hassan Reddick wasn't good. A lot of those names you thought were going to be good, just were not good. Javon Kinlaw was horrible. Um, but before that, man, you go look at it's like, dude, look at who was that offensive line and look at who was at quarterback, and we're saying it's a stacked team, stacked defense, a couple of years stacked defense. Yeah, I'll give you that. At least our D should be good. Yes, I am bullish on it. Of all the things that could possibly go right for this team this year that are question marks, because it's a lot of question marks. Um, I'd say the defense returning to top 10 is the thing that I think is most likely of a potential positive thing because there's still you have Quinnen, McDonald, JJ on your defensive line. You got one of the better starting off-ball linebacker tandems, Sauce, Michael Carter. Okay, those are really awesome corners. And you got some, okay, like Andre Cisco. He's good. Yeah, there's a lot of good players. I definitely think they're one human short on that defensive front. Someone's got to step up. Someone's got to step up because Quinnen, McDonald, and whatever JJ has off the Achilles is your one person short. So whether that's Byron Cowart, whether that's Tyler Barron, whether that's or just a combination of guys kind of being competent, because when you have your depth out there, if you have like two guys in your rotation who really suck, but you have to play them 28% of the snaps because you don't have enough bodies, that really kills you. When the Jets were really good, had really good defense, particularly in 22 and 23, they just had waves of dudes. It was like, Carl Lawson was actually okay that one year where he had like 7 sacks, and then it was like JFM, and then off the bench was Huff, and then Quentin Jefferson, and it's like the worst guy they had to play was Solly Thomas. It was the worst guy they had to play. Okay, but now I'm looking at a rotation, and I'm seeing like 4 Solly Thomases. So that's the question. But I think the secondary. The back 7 of the defense, I think, has quite a bit of talent. Quite a bit of talent. And you do have Quinnen and McDonald, who one is a 10-sack guy, the other one's been an all-pro recently. They need 1 or 2 guys to step up on the defensive front. Yeah, a little bit of fun won't hurt. Exactly. Like, I was joking around with one of my buddies. They're like, oh, what do you think about Fields? I'm like, well, if nothing else, they'll lose in a different way. Like him running around out there making plays, that's different. Who cares? What do you have to lose? So I don't get people who are like, oh, good luck with Fields. It's like, okay, but what were they supposed to do? Draft Jackson Dart? Okay, maybe if he's lighting it up in 3 years, we can come back and say you're correct about that. But sign Russell Wilson, it would have been the same as last year. We would experience the same thing where it's like, oh, he throws, look at Russell Wilson's touchdown interception ratio last 2 years 45 touchdowns to 16 picks. Great. They can't score points. Kirk Cousins, same thing. Kirk Cousins would come here and he'd throw 25 touchdowns and 10 picks and complete 67% of his passes. And it's like, look, that's top 4 in Jets history. Great. How many points did you score? No. So there wasn't a lot of great options, man. The supply of competent starting quarterback play is a lot less than the demand. So I think this is what the Jets are trying this year, man. We'll see how it goes. Amazing how many Fins fans are still clinging to the idea that Waddle and Garrett are equal. Really, that's a very random hill for them to die on. I mean, why don't they just tell us that we've never beaten Tua? That would be all I would say. They don't have to lie. Nobody thinks Waddle is better than Garrett Wilson. As a new Jets fan, because of my wife, I was excited to see Fields. I think he adds a dynamic with a solid running game. Welcome to the crew, my man. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. CB. The potential benefit outweighs the risk because the risk is really minimal. To Fields. No, it's all good. But 0-22, I was. I guess I have to see like what is Zach Wilson's record when his defense allows more than 21 points. I'd say maybe he won one game in which that was the case. What about Tim Boyle? Definitely 0. Do you think Zach Wilson ever had any real potential? He obviously had talent. He would have been taken by the 49ers if the Jets didn't take him. Teams were calling to trade up with the Jets for that one. And obviously this is not unbiased because I'm a Jet fan. And I definitely went very anti Zach Wilson, but I think because I allowed the BYU truthers to get into my brain. So I was probably harsher on Zach than necessary. Obviously, the coaching was horrific and the offensive lines were very bad. And they had no plan. They just threw him out there and said, hopefully it works. But I also think that it's unrealistic. People who think like, oh, if he would have been Josh Allen if he went somewhere else. Like, let's be a little, come on. Come on. Sean Payton had him as QB3 behind whoever it was, Jared Stidham. So it is what it is. But I'll say, I'm looking at Tanner Engstrand, and I think one of the ways I'm hoping that this Jets coaching staff is better in terms of quarterback development. And I think that part of that is with Fields. Like, he is still a quarterback. I know he's been in the league a long time, but he still needs to be developed more. Is with Saleh and LaFleur, because with Hackett, he was just so incompetent. It's not even worth talking about. But I think with Saleh and LaFleur, the problem was Saleh was like, okay, my job is to call the defensive plays and to give the team like motivational speeches. And that's it. Like building a staff, overseeing the whole operation, looking developing players on both sides of the ball, delegating responsibilities, making sure everything is running the right way, looking ahead and planning for what are future obstacles and how are we going to overcome them, balancing the priorities of trying to win now and develop a quarterback. What is the actual quarterback's developmental plan? What if he struggles? Who's our backup? What do we need to sit him for a few uh, weeks? Like what are the non-negotiables? What are the minimum things that he needs to do to continue to stay on the field? What are the things we're willing to just grow with and take on the chin as he's struggling? Like all that stuff. If I was a coach, I would have that in a document. I'd be like, this is the blueprint. This is the plan. You could ask Chat GPT to write you one. You'd say, what is the development plan for Zach Wilson? Chat GPT, and it would have given you one better than what the Jets tried because he didn't even try one. And Michael Ford was like, I just pick a play. I pick a play and I say the play in the microphone, and that's my job. Because Michael Ford was fine as a play designer, even as a play caller, but that's not your job. Your job is offensive coordinator. Your job is to be in charge of the whole staff and be in charge of developing all of your players and managing your staff and all that stuff. It's a leadership component was not there with Michael Ford. Michael Ford deserves a spot on an offensive staff. He just couldn't. He's just like the people component of it wasn't there with him. He had some creativity. I missed those hook and ladders. So that's what was lacking. Coach Shala is like, I say motivational things. I call defense. Michael LaFleur, you pick play and you say play. And everything else will work itself out 1 week at a time. That's not a plan. That's not a plan. And it's early. We know nothing about this team. We know absolutely nothing about this team, of course. But early signs are at least that Aaron Glenn seems to be a little bit more forward thinking and detail oriented. I'll take that. It's a start. And Tanner Ingstrom seems like he's a person who could actually have a conversation with a 25-year-old and have it not be weird. I'll take it. I'll take those two things as trending in the correct direction. Herbert is still better than Hurts and Goff, and I'll die on that hill. I would definitely take him over Goff. Hurts, I mean, he's just done it in the biggest moments, man. Even that Super Bowl they lost in 2022, Hurts went punch for punch with Mahomes. Obviously, Hurts has a cartoonish supporting cast, but I would be lucky to have any of those quarterbacks on my team. Corley, it's ridiculous. A few opportunities he had. He was a half inch from the great TD and never got another chance. Yeah. Yeah, and I get it. Like you pull him from that game. Even if you don't want to play him the rest of that game, that's fine. Because that was an egregious mistake. Like you cannot do that. That is about the dumbest thing you can do. It's not even like, oh, you dropped the pass, happens, you committed a penalty. Like that is just such a mental and in the most avoidable mental mistake you could possibly imagine. So if they wanted to bench him the rest of that game, I got no problem with that. But we're at the end of the year. The season is freaking over. Why am I seeing Irv Charles take wide receiver reps? What Alan Lazard, like the guys who have no business being on the team. So again, if you are going to spend the equivalent of a late second round pick on a player, this new staff, it's kind of different. If Corley ain't it for them and they cut him, I can't really feel any type of way about it because it is what it is. They're just evaluating the talent that they're inheriting. So they have to look at that with no strings attached. I still hope Corley makes the team because we don't have a lot of talent at wide receiver. But from the Douglas and Saleh and Ulbrich and Hackett and all them, dude, that you can't put him on the field over Herb Charles. Well, he doesn't know that that's on you. That is on you. It's on you. You picked him and you are coaching him. So either your scouting was wrong and you way overdrafted him, or your coaching is inept and can't figure out a way to get him on the field. There's no way around it. That is on them. One of my I don't really I don't have time to listen to 3-hour podcasts anymore, but if he's still making it, Jocko Willink has a great podcast and he has a quote and he always says there's no bad teams, there's just bad leaders. And maybe that's like hyperbole, But I think if you are a leader, that's a good rule to live by. No bad teams, just bad leaders. Like it's all on you. Because at the end of the day, it is. It is. Well, Corley just sucks. Then don't draft players who suck. Well, he's got to learn the. Nope, that's on you. You couldn't teach him how to do it in 4 months. That's on you. Other teams are drafting players in the second round, third round, and they run a little route and they catch a pass and they have 300 yards and they go about their day. Like it's not rocket science. I was sick of being gaslit that it's like crazy to draft a player in the third or fourth round and have them just do a thing on the field. I was sick of being gaslit about that. Well, it's rookies. Everyone takes time. Nobody knows anything. Who could like what the fuck? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Just draft a player who is capable of contributing and coach them to do so. I'm not talking about 7th round UDFA, 3rd, 4th round, late 2nd round. Insane. Why am I getting worked up about it on July 31st? I don't know. Super chat from Danger Zone. Appreciate it, man. Especially early afternoon. Keep rocking, brother. Hey, man. Yeah. Yeah. So no stream schedule. People ask that, like, what is your stream schedule? It is very random. I just have to pop up whenever I can. I've had some time the past couple days. Obviously, lots of videos on the thing. Then there'll be like 4 to 5 days where I don't upload at all. So it's just very random. Pick one. Okay. Pick one. A solid veteran tight end or a solid veteran punter? Well, up until let me look at free agency because Noah Fant just went to the Bengals. I would have taken Noah Fant over a punter. So now I guess, is there like a good punter out there that we could even get? Because my gut just says tight end. Brian Anger. That's the name I know. He's done things. Ryan Stonehouse. Ryan Stonehouse sounds like he would absolutely shank a punt in the most crucial of moments. It's just a name that wouldn't be famous for a good reason. So we're going to skip him. Brian Anger. Although some puns could be had there. You got to be careful with the names for these punters. Okay, he's bald, so that's a good start for punters. It's, could be a good sign. Now, 40 yards, net yards per punt. I guess that's the most important stat for a punter, right? Okay. The 18th in net yards per punt last year. Yeah, to me, why not have a competition at punter? Now, punter mostly only matters if you have an outlier, like a top 3 to 4 punter or a bottom 3 to 4 punter. In the middle there, it really is negligible. But we only have that UDFA who's never punted before, so he could be bottom 3 to 4. And to avoid that, I would see no problem in adding a guy like this or Johnny Hecker or whoever who could at least be the 18th to 20th best punter and have it be. Honestly, they should have kept Morstead. Like cutting Greg Z, fine, whatever. But to me, I know Thomas Morstead was not good last year. He was like 19th or 20th in net yards per punt, but great guy in the locker room. Like, I don't know. Is that you have to save $1.5 million there while Clemens is still on this roster for $4 million? I don't know, man. So yeah, I would add one of those punters at tight end. I don't think there's anyone out there really. Let's see. Oh, I got to go to available. I was like, well, there's all kinds of good players. Unrestricted free agent. Gerald Everett. He's the only one on this list because I'm already seeing CJ Uzama's name is third. Mercedes Lewis, who is actually older than Nick Folk. So Gerald Everett, because he's kind of like a Conklin, honestly, like a little bit like he's a Jag. He's a Jag. And I know we don't want Jags, but a Jag is probably better than he's probably our tight end too. If you sign Gerald Everett, he's probably tight end too. Um, he for from 2018 to 2023, he was good for about 430 yards and 3-4 touchdowns a season. And last year in Chicago, he didn't really do much at all. So I would take that. If he can come in and give us 410 yards and 3 touchdowns, like, yeah, dude, he's probably would be like our 5th leading pass catcher. So why not? Yeah, Clemens. Although to be fair, like it's not like we have the deepest defensive line room. I just like can they get Clemens to take a pay cut? It's just the principle of the matter. Can they get Clemens to take it for the vet minimum? You think this new coaching regime will be able to get Brees to stop dancing and just go? Hope so, because he does. Yeah, last year was not a great year for Brees. Glenn Fields and Mason Taylor. Is there any room on the Jets bandwagon? I I'm confident in this draft class too. I know it was a very negatively reviewed draft class by Jets fandom in general, which I don't get because I think it was really just last year left such a bad taste in people's mouths that they're just like anything with the Jets, we just assume it's negative until proven otherwise, which I get. But if we're trying to be objective, I just don't understand, particularly compared to the 2024 draft class. Because let's kind of be honest. I mean, they took Olu, great, awesome, really, because they traded back and got Olu. But then you spent a third and a fifth round pick on Corley, who might immediately be a practice squad player or in Canada soon. You spent a fifth round pick on Jordan Travis. I think you traded up to get him like a 5 and a 7, and he's already retired. And I know injuries happen, but they took him and they knew that was a chance when they took him. And then you drafted 2 running backs who you only had to draft because you drafted a running back in the 5th round the previous year who couldn't make an NFL team. So you got a tackle in round 1, awesome, but then the rest of your draft, you got running back depth. If there's a draft to be kind of leery about, and look, it's too early for both of them because whatever, maybe Quantez Stiggers is a starting corner in 2 years. And it's like, all right, cool. Maybe the Jets let Brees Hall go and Braylon Allen is running back 1 in a year. We'll see. Maybe Olu Fashanu makes an all pro and he just is the next to Brickashaw Ferguson. And you're like, we don't even give a shit about the rest of the draft class because he held down left tackle for a decade. So I'm not writing an obituary on that draft class either. But to me, if there was a draft class to be raising an eyebrow about over the last 2, it'd be that one. Because Armamembu is already right tackle 1 and Mason Taylor is already tight end 1. So you already got higher return on investment. And they haven't even played in the regular season. I'm already confident saying that. Like I'm confident saying Mason Taylor is gonna be a better pick than Corley. And it's not like the resource allocation was that much different between the two. Matt O'Leary, what's up, dude? Who was your surprise cut and surprised to make the team? Matt, I have to think about these questions. This is not what this show is about. This show is for rants, sidebars, random anecdotes, hatred, humor. But I guess if I have to think, okay, now I'm gonna actually try and think outside the box because there's lots of names where like people say, "Oh, well, Corley could be a surprise cut." So it's almost would be a surprise if he makes the team at this point. So I'm gonna try to really think of an actual surprise. Um. Okay, so surprise cut. And again, surprise. So if you say, no, that's not happening, that means it qualifies as a surprise, right? So Jeremy Ruckert, surprise cut. Maybe they want to keep only 3 tight ends. They go with Beck, who's been a better blocker, who could play fullback, and they think Smart has a niche receiving skill set. Again, would I bet on that? No, but I think he is, of all the surprises, I think it would be a likely one. Again, he made it in my prediction, but to meet the criteria of a surprise, I would say Jeremy Ruckert. Is a surprise cut. Surprise make? I mean, you guys know all the players. Like how am I? Like I'd say Jamin Davis, but you guys know Jamin Davis. That's not a surprise. Jarius Monroe, is that a surprise? Does that count? I think Jarius Monroe makes the team. I'll say, okay, I think I got my surprise make. Braden McGregor. I think Braden McGregor has just kind of been pushed by the wayside. We talk a lot about Watts and Leonard Taylor from that UDFA class last year, but maybe Braden McGregor could be that last defensive lineman to sneak on. Okay, Jarius Monroe and Beck are both on my. Beck to me is, if they cut Beck, I don't know what's going on, because he could play fullback and he's a decent blocking tight end, and he plays special teams. Yeah, so Lazard, it would be like they're gonna have him take the pay cut and then have him not make the team would be an unusual situation, but I wouldn't cry about it. Oh yeah. Oh, Tony Adams. See, Tony Adams to me isn't a surprise make. I think Tony Adams. I had my 5 Jets who I think are going to play a bigger role than people think, that I tweeted out in like whatever May. Andrew Beck was on there, Eric Watts was on there, and Tony Adams was on there. Like Tony Adams to me is a 50-50 shot to be a day 1 starter. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying you have to like that. I just think he could be on the field a decent amount. I think Tony Adams and Michael Clemens are players. Max Mitchell, these are players that clearly there's something about them that coaches like that we don't see as fans. Right? Brandon Smith, round 2 of Brandon Smith Truth Ring has commenced. He will not make the team, but we can pretend that he will and imagine how fun it would be. But he probably won't. Yeah, Beck was actually the first guy they signed. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was the first guy they signed. Previous regime had us thinking that, yeah, and look, Tony Adams once played 90+% of the snaps on a defense that was good. But if Tony Adams is starting, he needs to probably be like your 10th or 11th best starter. Someone's got to be. Even really good defenses have guys who are not good on them who are starting. What defense has 11 players who are above average? Very rare. The Jets had a good defense with LaMarcus Joyner on it once. The Jets defense had a good defense when Michael Clemens was playing 30% of the snaps once. Right? It has happened. What are you talking about? Oh yeah. Yeah, they're like, this is our first physical practice ever. It just like, and then I go back to Coach Sal, and I know it's the easiest thing to do. It's the lowest hanging fruit of let's crap on the previous guys and say how the new guys are going to be way different until it's 2-3 years, and then we do the same thing, and it's kind of how it's gone. But like, it's like a mental illness that we convince ourselves to be different. But dude, when you look back at like those Hard Knocks films of like Saleh talking about how like an egret and is battling like a freaking toad or whatever, but then like a possum is the hero at the end of it, and it's like, geez, God, like, and then Malachi Corley is like, Coach, how do I run routes? And he's like, shut up. Anyway, Back to the egret. He's flying. Now there's a possum. Now hold on. The possum is going to become very crucial at the end of the story. Malachi, are you writing this down? And Tony Adams is like, how do I tackle? And it's enough. We didn't even get to the possum yet. Like it's so stupid. And then when he was like cursing out he's like, we just had our first F in this and F in that and F in that to the offensive line. Like now it just seems so performative. And it's like, oh, not great, Bob. Not great, Bob, as the gift goes. What was the actual metaphor? It was like an eagle and a pigeon or whatever. Like the pigeon goes so high that the eagle can't breathe in the altitude. I'm like, oh my God. I don't know how to tackle. Hey, can we have referees so we know what holding is? Dead. Enough. Possum, and the egret, and the toad. This is what we need to be focusing on right now. We will get the penalties and tackles if we have time after class. A crow. Yes. That's what it was. A crow and what was it? A crow and a pigeon? It wasn't even like a badass bird. It was a crow and a pigeon. Talk about a mid-off of birds. Even though crows are allegedly like, I don't know, they could do math or whatever, but it's like, okay, sure. It's like an article like a crow can recognize up to 1,200 human faces. Sure. Put it in the book. Fine. Didn't even get an eagle or like a falcon. No, Crow the movie is a great movie. That's the Kung Fu movie, right? That's a great movie. Oh no, the eagle. Okay, it was an eagle. So the crow, I got it. The crow, I remember now. The crow is on the eagle's back, but the eagle flies so high that the crow can't breathe in that air and then drops off. And the metaphor was the people who are naysaying the Jets, those are the crows, and the Jets have to fly so high, rise so high above it that they silence their doubters. Okay, I get it. It's not a terrible metaphor, but again, I think maybe just if we would started with the tackling and the route running and the penalties first, and then if we had time, maybe the crow could have been snuck in there at the end. But I'll leave it there. I appreciate you guys hanging out. If you wanted the thumbs up on your way out, that'd be cool. And we'll talk ball soon.